Hey guys, Brian Henney here, and in this video I'm going to be debunking the myth of electability in the 2016 presidential primary. So, I'm not the first one to talk about this, but it's not talked about in the mainstream media. There is an assumption, especially on the Democratic side, that Hillary Clinton is inevitable, but there's also to some degree an assumption on the Republican side that Donald Trump is inevitable, and there seems to be an assumption, especially as I was just saying on the Democratic side, that Hillary Clinton is more electable based on nothing really. I guess a gut feeling that she's more electable, or I don't know exactly what it's based on, but it's something that is said a lot. So there were a number of polls that came out earlier today. There were polls from Bloomberg, Fox News, and Quinnipiac about general election polling, and it got me interested in talking a little bit about electability because these polls and other polls have shown that it's not what the media would have you believe. The candidates that they say are the most electable are not necessarily the most electable, and I'm going to talk about that in this video. So I'm going to start out here by showing you guys all the different general election polls that came out earlier today. So if you just looked at those polls, and this also goes for previous polls, it's not just those three, but those are the ones that came out earlier today. Recent polls also say the same thing. It consistently says that the most electable candidates are Bernie Sanders and John Kasich. So why does there seem to be this narrative that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are inevitable? Now, to some extent, there is fact behind that, in them being inevitable at least, because Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump have the lead in their respective fields, and they're both, pretty decent leads also. They're not just winning by, it hasn't been going back and forth. They both have had consistent leads. But the question really is about, especially on the Democratic side, because you really see this narrative on the Democratic side, the assumption really that Hillary Clinton is more electable. That's what they say. They say Hillary Clinton is more electable. And when you talk to Hillary Clinton supporters, it's a consistent theme that they say as well. I've talked to Hillary Clinton supporters, and that's one of the main reasons I hear for why they support Hillary Clinton. There are some other things, like they think that she'd be better at working with Republicans, or they're just not sure they want the type of change, the level of change that Bernie Sanders is talking about. But the main reason I hear from people, what I normally hear from Hillary Clinton supporters, is I like everything that Bernie Sanders is saying, but I think that Hillary Clinton is more electable. And I understand for regular people, most people aren't looking at all of the polls every day, but I do look at all of the polls every day, and I can tell you Hillary Clinton, based on polling and the statistics, actual facts, is not more electable. Bernie Sanders is the more electable candidate. So it's a really interesting phenomenon, and it's really spread in the media. People see what the mainstream media says, and the mainstream media says Hillary Clinton's more electable. They don't tell you why. They don't tell you how. They just say she's more electable. She's more electable because, who knows? I don't know. There's no real justification for how she is more electable. She has lower favorability ratings than Bernie Sanders. She is much worse among independents, and in every general election poll, she does worse. Bernie Sanders does better than her in every general election matchup that I've ever seen. And then you factor in that she has a problem with trustworthiness among people, and there's no factors in her favor that would make her a more electable candidate. On the Republican side, Donald Trump's doing well among Republicans, but he doesn't do well. I don't think I've ever seen a general election matchup that Donald Trump wins. So he is not electable. He has the highest if he wins the Republican nomination, he will have the highest unfavorable ratings of any presidential candidate in modern history. That's crazy. That I mean, I know 2012 they went for who they felt was most electable, and it didn't go well. But this time, it's like a whole different extreme. There's some xenophobic populism in his message, but he is not electable based on the facts. Even Ted Cruz is more electable, but really the most electable candidate on the Republican side, which I think is really interesting, is John Kasich. I was saying in my video earlier today that it does make sense that the Republicans are gonna be, that they'll probably be telling him that to drop out. There'll be pressure on him to drop out. He won 0 delegates yesterday. He really has not caught on with Republican voters. But if they actually want to win the general election, that's the guy they should be going for. So, I mean, if you're a Democrat, I know people say, oh, John Kasich's the Democrats' favorite Republican candidate. Well, he probably shouldn't be, because he could actually win. Donald Trump has, I mean, sure, any of them could theoretically win. But if your only concern is that the Democrats win, then you should not be hoping for John Kasich to be the nominee on the Republican side. And that's, unlikely to happen. So it's, I guess, good for you if that's your only concern. But yeah, so he is more electable based on the facts. Every single poll, or at least all of those 3 polls, now that it's just the 3 of them, he does the best. And in fact, he did in other recent polls when Rubio was still in it as well. He does the best in general election matchups. He actually beats Hillary Clinton easily, which should really concern Hillary Clinton supporters or just regular Democratic voters that do not want the Republicans to win. Should be concerned about the fact that Hillary Clinton does so poorly against John Kasich. Even though, I mean, John Kasich is extremely unlikely to get the Republican nomination, but that's not good. He even does well against Bernie Sanders, who is more electable than Hillary Clinton. And he in both of those polls, he has 1% higher than Bernie Sanders. He has considerably higher than Hillary Clinton. Both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders beat both Donald Trump and Ted Cruz in every poll. Except, actually, no. Hillary Clinton actually does not beat Ted Cruz in every poll, which is pretty concerning if you're a Democratic voter as well. I mean, you think, oh, well, Donald Trump's winning, so as long as he's the nominee, we're fine with Hillary Clinton. But what if he's not? What if Ted Cruz is the nominee? Are you really willing to risk Ted Cruz being the next president of the United States if you're a Democrat just so that you can vote for Hillary Clinton? If you want who's the most electable candidate, you should be voting for Bernie Sanders. He's the most electable candidate. Like, that's just, like, I'm not saying what my gut tells me. It's not my gut telling. It's not because I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter. That's just what the statistics and the facts say. I'm not just cherry picking what I want to see. Like, these are all of the polls. I'm showing all of the polls from earlier today. If you want, I can put up a video showing every poll over the last 3 months and show you that every general election poll has Bernie Sanders doing better than Hillary Clinton. It's just ridiculous that the media is, when they say that Hillary Clinton is more electable, they are either ignorant or they're flat out lying. So you should not listen to what they're saying when they say that. And on the other side, like I said, John Kasich's more electable. And, people say Bernie Sanders can't realistically win. I know John Kasich can't realistically win. He's way too far behind. Bernie Sanders is pretty far behind, but he has a much better road going forward and a much better chance than John Kasich does of actually getting the nomination. But I would, it is something to consider, at least for the Republican establishment, if they try to get a contested convention to avoid Trump from being the nominee. John Kasich should be a guy they look at, even though I don't think that they can reasonably justify forcing a candidate on the Republican Party that they don't elect. If they are going to do that, John Kasich makes a lot of sense because he's more electable than anyone else they have, really. But yeah, I mean, that's my take on it. One interesting thing I want to talk about real quick is just, I think it's really interesting that the least right-wing Republican and the most left-wing Democrat are the ones that do better in general election matchups. To me, that says, and this may be just my bias talking, but it seems to me that the country as a whole is becoming more progressive. Bernie Sanders has a progressive, populist message. He's a self-described democratic socialist, and he does much better than Hillary Clinton, an establishment centrist Democrat, in every single poll. And then on the Republican side, you have right wingers. You have the extreme right winger Ted Cruz. You have the guy using xenophobic, rhetoric, openly racist rhetoric. Donald Trump. Both don't do particularly well. And then you have John Kasich, the moderate conservative, the old school Republican, who does much better than those two. So I think that's a really interesting thing to consider along with the question of electability. But anyway, so I guess, that I just wanted to talk a little bit about that mythology and, let me know your thoughts, who you think is the most electable and why. Comment down below, like, subscribe, and thanks for watching. See you next time.